I welcome the affordable housing. So I think that's all I'll say so that we can move on, because I'm conscious of the time and there's already been enough delays from certainly caused on my part. So there you go.
Thank you very much, and I'm content that you've heard sufficient, so you are able to continue to participate in this meeting. Thank you very much. I'm not going to make further comment. I think the comments that have been made largely I'm in total concordance, and I'm happy to let it rest there. And with your agreement, members, I would like to move to a motion. I'd like to move that we adopt the officer's recommendations set out in paragraphs 1 to 2 of the report and page 48 of the main agenda pack. That one, that the planning committee grant planning permission subject to the recommended planning condition that the applicant entering into an appropriate legal agreement by no later than the 8th of February 2021, and 2, the referral to the Mayor of London. That in the event that the Section 106 agreement is not completed by the 8th of February 2021, that the Director of Planning be authorised to refuse planning permission if appropriate for the reasons set out in paragraph 311 of this report. And if I get to make sure, as part of this motion, if I can double check with John and Wing that the conditions set out in the addendum is also included in this motion. Am I correct?
Yes.
Very good. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Now, does any member wish to second this motion, please?
Seconded, Chair.
Very good. In that case, then, I will now pursue to the vote. It'd be a rolling vote, and I would ask you to confirm if you wish to support, abstain, or indeed vote against the motion. So I'll start with Councillor Morell. For, against, or abstain?
Yep, for, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Livingstone, for, against, abstain?
For, Chair.
Councillor Clement O'Brien, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Councillor Claire Serm, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dan Whitehead, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Councillor Kath Whittam, for, against, or abstain?
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Bill William, for, against, or abstain?
For, Chair.
Thank you. And I'm Councillor Martin Seaton, and I vote for the motion. The motion is carried. Thank you all those who've contributed to the presentations and responding to our questions. Thank you very much. I'll now move on, unless there's any reason why I should not. Good. I should now move on to the second item, and forgive me, I'll just get myself in the correct location. Thank you. In that case, then, thank you, and thank you for those who've contributed to that last motion. I will now move on to item 8.2, and I now understand that Councillor Livingstone will now withdraw from the meeting. And if the clerk could confirm that's happened.
Councillor Livingston will not sit on this item, but he'll still be in the room because he'll speak later as a ward councillor. He'll leave the Zoom meeting after he's spoken and answered the questions.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, I can see him, but there you go. Okay. So what I will do then, I'll invite the officer present to present the report. And just forgive me, I'll just do the usual deductions, which is 8.2 Osprey Road, pages 1 to 105 of the supplemental agenda pack, and number 1 to pages 5 to 11 of the addendum report. Can I invite the presenting officer to introduce himself, and you may begin your presentation.
Good evening, Chair. I'm Troy Davies, team leader and the case officer for this development. I'll just share my screen now.
Very good.
I've been disabled on share screen sharing. Is that able to be fixed?
Apologies, Troy. I'll make you a co-host, and then that shouldn't be a problem.
Thanks, Gerald.
Okay, that's done.
Okay. Can everyone see the screen there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll start now. Thank you.
Go ahead.
The proposed development is a mixed-use scheme for 105 affordable homes with uplift in workspace, including affordable workspace to be located within the industrial light space. The site is located towards the northern end of Ossory Road, near the junction with Old Kent Road to the north here. As you can see on this image to the left, the site is adjacent to the Asda Superstore, with the Glengall Road Industrial Estate located to the south here. To the north and the west of the site are residential properties consisting of numbers 430 to 462 Old Kent Road and Portway House to the north of the site. And along this western corridor here is the dwellings of that form 1 to 27 Glengall Road. The locally listed bottling factory is seen here immediately to the rear of the application site. The developer is Pocket Living, and they specialise in building space-efficient compact units of accommodation in London, which are generally at least 37 square metres. Here is an image of a typical layout where you have an open plan development with the living room and the kitchen, the bedroom, the entrance and the shower room there. With the Pocket model, to be able to purchase a Pocket home with the 20% discount, a three-step process must be adhered to. The buyer must have an income below the threshold for a one-bedroom unit, which is currently at circa £47,000. 2, the buyer must live or work within the borough. And 3, the buyer must not own another property. Within Southwark, one Pocket scheme has been completed to date, and that was recently in December 2019. The figures from that Pocket has given us regarding the sales demonstrates that all purchasers either lived, worked, or lived and worked within the borough. As you can see the figures here to the bottom, 19% lived and worked within the borough, 35% worked in the borough, and 46% lived in the borough. The image on the left is a view from the junction with Old Kent Road, showing residential properties to the north here. And on the right here is a view from entering Ossory Road, where you see the application site as well as the buildings that form the Glengall Industrial Estate to the south. The site is located on the edge of OKR 10, seen here on the left and then imposed further on the right here. There's an indicative capacity within this area for 4,200 new homes and 3,100 jobs. The typologies identified for this location within OKR 10 is suitable for small industrial units. And with this in mind, the ground and first floors have 4 metre floor to ceiling heights to accommodate the variety of light industrial uses, which may need higher floor to ceiling heights. To assist with the council's climate change emergency objectives, the development is a car-free development that provides policy compliant cycle parking, biodiversity net gain, and CO2 savings of 69.2% for the residential aspect and 35.1% for the commercial. To achieve net carbon zero on site, a £36,300 contribution will be secured through the Section 106 agreement. As you can see here on the left is the ground floor plan. The residential entrance is located centrally on Ossory Road with ease of access to a ground floor residential lobby and a central lift and the staircase there, and another staircase to the north. At the southern end of the ground floor is B1C floor space with the service yard to the north and located next to the secure cycle parking. The ground floor provides 515 square metres of B1C floor space, and the first floor provides 884 square metres, and this represents an uplift of 473 square metres on existing floor space, B1C floor space. And also with this in mind, that there is provision for up to 77 jobs on site, which equates to a 284% uplift on the current jobs on site. This diagram here is a through section taken from the south of the OKR 10 boundaries. To the left here, where my cursor is Glengall Road. So the site is located here in the purple. And as you move across the development, you see previous schemes such as Malt Street in the light red here and Cantium Retail Park and Civic Livesey located there. And it is this section through development highlights the transition in scale from Glengall Road all the way through to the approved schemes that I just mentioned before. It is worth noting also that during the pre-app stage, the maximum height of the scheme was reduced from 15 stories to 11, the maximum of 11 stories, to comply with the aspirations of the OKR AAP and this specific viewpoint that is within the OKR AAP. The design of the scheme comes from two distinct looks. To achieve the treatment of the north and south blocks, they differ from one another, but they still complement each other, with the choice of red brick reflecting the nature of the industrial character to the south of the site and the locally listed bottling factory to the rear. This image here shows a typical floor layout and with this typical floor layout, our homes are allowed. There is over a third of the homes that are dual aspect, with all of the units exceeding minimum GIA standards. Where my mouse cursor is here is some aspects of private defensible amenity space provided on the second and 10th to occupiers on the second and 10th floor. As stated on the last slide, there's the private defensible amenity space will be along the second floor here on the podium floor space, and the units that are facing onto the quiet terrace here. The three terrace areas, including the podium space, the quiet terrace, and the rooftop terrace, are all accessible to all residents. The scheme proposes 580 square metres of private and communal amenity. Of this provision, 42 square metres is for the private amenity, and 506 is for communal amenity. Also within the scheme is an internal communal room of 32 square metres. Because of its internal nature, it is not counted towards the overall provision. The AAP identifies the site as not needing to provide public open space, and therefore it has been agreed that the shortfall contribution will be secured through the Section 106 agreement to fund upgrades of new and existing park spaces within the AAP area. Over 40 objections have been received regarding the scheme. The majority of objections have come from Glengall Road residents located between 60 and 80 metres to the rear of the development. The cursor here shows a 65 metre separation distance at its closest and 80 metres at its furthest distance. Objections have also been received from residents of Portway House to the northwest of the site, and the majority of objections have raised concerns over a loss of daylight, sunlight, and overshadowing impacts, as that is the most clear objection to this scheme. And the next slides will demonstrate the overshadowing assessment that, that shows column 1 down here is the existing scenario currently in terms of overshadowing. Column 2 is the proposed Higham scheme next door, which is at 14 to 22 Ossery Road, and that's currently under consideration with planning reference 19 AP 7610. Column 3 demonstrates, lost my mouse. It demonstrates the shadow path of the subject site, with column 4 demonstrating the cumulative impact of the pocket scheme, the Higham scheme. This path is, this particular slide is focused on the morning of March 21st, the spring equinox. As you can see here, by 9 o'clock, the majority of the houses along Glengall Road have the shadow has come over the existing building and the light has penetrated the rear amenity areas. For the proposed scheme, not much difference will occur. Sorry, I lost my cursor again. There will be a overshadowing to the northwest of the Glengall Road residents and Portway House and the Old Kent Road occupiers. By 10 o'clock, this reduces further. And then by 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock, as the sun comes up higher and moves to the south of the site and around to the west, the shadow cast goes over towards the Asda Superstore, and all the residents are able to benefit from the afternoon sun penetrating all amenity areas. This just shows the afternoon of exact same layout with the columns and how the shadow path goes over the Asda Superstore here, allowing all the houses along here to get that natural light. This slide represents the morning of June 21st, the summer equinox. As you can see, 5 o'clock is the first shadow. Everything's overshadowed. 6 o'clock it starts to recede. 7 o'clock, and then by 8 o'clock in the morning in the existing scenario, the sun is again above the existing building. And if we move to column 3, by 8 o'clock, the Glengall Road residents have access to all sunlight penetrating their amenity areas with the shadow over Portway House and the Old Kent Road residents. But as the sun comes around the south of the site and to the west, and gets higher in the sky, the shadow cast starts going over towards Asda again, and this is at 10 o'clock in the morning on June 21st. And if we move to the afternoon slide, you'll see that all these houses, all the potentially affected houses, have adequate access to natural daylight, and the shadow cast has gone over to the Asda Superstore. This scheme shows demonstrates the 6-hour period on December 21st, the winter equinox. Existing scenario here, so you've got 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is the times. By 11 a.m., all properties on Glengall Road are not overshadowed and therefore achieve at least 2 hours of daylight on this day, in line with the BRE guidance. It is noted that the impact of the shadowing in the winter time is towards the rear gardens of the dwellings at 434 to 452 Old Kent Road, and these will not achieve the 2 hours of sunlight on December 21st. However, it is noted that this BRE guidance is for suburban locations to achieve the 2 hour natural daylight, with the development being located in an urban location. And therefore it's considered, on balance, officers are satisfied that the scheme achieves adequate compliance with the BRE recommendations, considering its location within an urban setting. The site is located adjacent to the Glengall Road Conservation Area. As recently this conservation area has been extended, it used to end along the rear of the properties here, but it's been extended to include the locally listed bottling factory as part of the Glengall Road conservation area. Given the 65 metre distance of the property given the minimum 65 metre distance of the property from Glengall Road, the rear wall of Glengall Road properties, and coupled with the height of the scheme, the development is only marginally visible from direct views in the conservation area, as shown on this image on the left. Given the height of the scheme and its separation distance, it is considered that less than substantial harm would occur to the conservation area, and the public benefits of the scheme outweigh the less than substantial harm to the conservation area. The biodiversity and net gain of the development is a positive aspect of the scheme. The landscaping and sedum roof are sufficiently located and provide the excellent biodiversity net gain, and they're also sufficiently located whilst successfully accommodating functional community space. So I lost my cursor on the rooftop terrace here, on the podium terrace, and on the quiet terrace on the 10th floor. Transport and public realm improvements. As you can see, there's active frontages that will be created onto the onto Ossory Road. The service yard can accommodate a 10-metre long van, and an articulated lorry will service the site from Ossory Road. In summary, 105 new homes to the borough's housing stock. It's a 100% affordable scheme in the intermediate tenure with the possibility of 20% discounters to purchasers. There's 1,439 square metres of B1C floor space, which is an increase of 473 square metres on the existing provision. There is potential for the jobs to be significantly increased on site. There is excellent environmental, biodiversity and sustainability gains. It is notified that there has been 45 objections to the scheme, predominantly from occupiers nearby to the development, and their main concerns again was the overshadowing, the loss of daylight and sunlight. And with 19 letters of support, people have supported the prospect of being able to afford their own home to get on the property ladder and to get them on their way in their life and hopes of owning a home. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're still showing your screen. Oh, that's better. There you are. There you are. That's better. Are there any questions from the committee? If you could put a digital hands up or indicate using other methods. Any questions? No questions? Very good. In that case, then, I will move on to the objectors. Now, is there anyone here to speak to the objectors? I note here names between Jerry Flynn and Caitlin Cohen, I think you pronounced that. Are they present, first of all? Are they present? If they could speak.
Yeah, I'm present.
And is Jerry with you as well?
Jerry, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. In that case, then what I'm going to ask you to do, please, if I can ask you both to introduce yourselves, and you don't need to tell us your address, but just tell us if you belong to an organisation, just so we know who you are. Once you've done that, I will indicate who will be speaking, either Jerry or Caitlin.
I'll be speaking for a minute and a half, and Caitlin will be speaking for a minute and a half.
Very good, very good. In that case, if I can first of all just start with the formality. Caitlin, can I ask you please just introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Caitlin. I live in Peckham and I am representing 35% campaign along with Jerry.
Thank you very much. Jerry, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jerry. I live in Bermondsey and I'm also representing the 35% campaign.
Very good. In that case, then, I'm going to indicate at last 30 seconds. So I presume who will go first? Who will go first?
I shall go first.
Very good. In that case, then, your time starts now.
The committee should reject this application for planning approval because it entirely ignores Southwark's local plan requirements for affordable housing in Old Kent Road developments. In particular, it provides no social rented housing or family housing. The applicant's affordable housing offer is also solely intermediate housing of the most expensive kind at 80% market value. Only a small percentage of Southwark's households will be eligible for such housing. Less than 6% have the average 42,000 income of a pocket occupier, or according to new Southwark plan information. The equalities assessment for the application has not considered the impact of the lack of social and family housing on groups with protected characteristics, including those from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds, a high percentage of whom depend upon social and affordable housing. The applicant's scheme is unviable, and the applicant is depending upon the delivery of the Bakerloo Line extension to remedy this. However, the Bakerloo Line extension has not been advanced for government funding by Transport for London, without which it's unlikely to proceed. In sum, it is hard to see what this scheme brings to the Old Kent Road in housing terms. It has no social rented housing and no family housing. It serves only a narrow income band and is unviable to boot. The application should therefore be rejected.
Okay, thank you. Caitlin, very quickly.
In addition to Jerry's points, I think the committee should reject this application on the basis that the density of this development is double the density allowed according to the local, allowed if it was in a central activity zone. This density is not justified as it does not meet exemplary design standards that are outlined in paragraph 119 of the officer's report. Namely, I'll speak on 2 points. Firstly, the design of the units just meet the bare minimum requirements for 1 bedroom, 1 person houses. The sale of these flats are not only secluded to one person owner. They can be sold to 2 people, as has been in the Barclay Street development. The high density also impacts the conservation area as a directly abutment, and 3 times the mass of the locally listed bottling factory that it abuts. Finally, the amenity space is grossly inadequate. It only provides 42 square meters of private amenity space, creating a shortfall of 1,008 square meters. Additionally, the communal amenity space is only 506 square meters and creates a shortfall of 1,058 square meters. Overall, I think this application should be rejected. It does not provide anything beneficial for the local community in terms of amenity space, and it will put huge pressure on existing parks such as the Burgess Park. Thank you.
And thank you for keeping to time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Committee members, are there questions? If you could indicate. I see Councillor Whitehead. Before Councillor Whitehead, are there other members who wish to speak? Okay, Councillor Whitehead, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very quick question. I believe it was Jerry who mentioned that 6% of Southwark residents can afford a mortgage. I was just wondering where that data comes from. What's the source?
Yes, that data comes from the new Southwark Plan submission version, figure 2. It's a bar table of home affordability in Southwark 2018, and it sets out the number of households for various income brackets and how many there are by percentage in Southwark.
Okay, is that it, Dan? Yep, okay. Councillor Whittam.
I just want to say we have another example of not looking out inside the line for amenity space, but looking outside again. We can't sustain that over all these different applications. So
Your question, please, Councillor Whittam.
yeah, I'm struggling for a question. I just want to
okay, but you can make those points later, of course.
Yes, I know. I just want to ask how you think people will manage without that amenity space.
Well, I think it'll be a sacrifice if there isn't the amenity space. The flats themselves are very small. They do meet the minimum standard, but they don't exceed it by a great deal. So there is a need for this amenity space, both public and private, and it's not being provided by the development.
Thank you. Kathleen, you can respond as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think also having just been through lockdown and seeing the value of public spaces, I think it's crucial that we consider that, considering the number of families that have had to live in overcrowded properties and in small properties, and people having to live in circumstances that they didn't anticipate, with maybe more than one person that's stipulated that these flats are supposed to be suited for.
Okay. Thank you. Are there further questions to the objectors? In that case, I might ask a question of you. So did you say the percentage, Jerry, did you say it was 4%? Could get the correct figures?
Yes, just less than 6%, in fact, okay, on that particular income bracket. Yeah.
Okay. So
5.8 exactly.
Understood. So the Oak Kent Road AAP talks in terms of a population of around 20,000. This development is 106 or so dwellings. As a percentage, it's less than 0.5% of the target figure intended for the AAP. That's a reasonable compromise, is it not?
Well, you might think so, but I think there is an acute need for social housing. If we do have these small sites, I think they could be put to better use by providing homes for those who are most in need of them. We know that many homeless people were housed in hotels over the COVID crisis, and they are now returning to the streets. So I guess if you're looking at it in those strict percentage terms, you might say this is a site we can, so to speak, afford to lose, but I wouldn't agree with that.
And my only last comment, of course, there are quite a few examples of sites along the Oakland Road which are 100% social for their council. And indeed, we have approved applications which have been policy compliant. But you would recognise that there are a section of our local community, who are, as you say, 5-6%, for whom these homes, 106, would be appropriate. Would you concur?
Yes, I would. But I think if this need is identified, it should be properly addressed through planning policy, and the various demands are weighed up in planning policy, and
Indeed.
Planning policy doesn't allow for this kind of development. So I think that kind of argument should be made when deciding what planning policy should be, rather than deciding what the individual application should be, what individual application should be approved outside of planning policy.
And Caitlin, you want to comment?
Yeah, I think even if we just, think about the last application that we just heard, we're considering all of these developments on a mixed communities basis. Why is this development suddenly excluded from the need to provide mixed communities that is seen to be heralded so much by local policy? I don't see why this should be excluded from that. It provides no benefit to the mixed communities policy that's so strictly abided by local policy. And it doesn't provide anything beyond the very small 80% of market rent.
Very good, thank you for the response. Councillor O'Brien, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's kind of an ideological question, really, because for viability sake.
Let's not do politics.
No. The question is, this has to be a viable.
This is a straightforward question.
Yeah, okay. This is a private development. This is not a council-owned development, and they've taken this model. If they weren't to take this model, and it was mixed community and it provided homes for families, they would have to sell some of these properties privately. Would you be happier that they did that they took the traditional model, if you like, with 35% affordable, over and above what they're proposing this evening?
Well, you started off, Councillor, with your comments about the development having to be viable. The development isn't viable. The committee is being asked to consider an application which is very far beyond the parameters of current policy, and it isn't viable.
That's not my question, Jerry.
Yeah. Okay. I would prefer to see an application which was closer to the requirements of Southwark's housing policy, as that policy has been designed after careful consideration of all the competing demands of people on different incomes for different kinds of housing. This application does not abide by that to any degree. So I guess my answer to your question is yes, I would be happier to see something that was much closer, of course, to Southwark planning policy.
Fair enough, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And if there are no further questions to the objectors, I want to thank both Jerry and Kathleen for your presentation and your responses to members' questions. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. I'll now move on to the applicant or the applicant agent. Can I confirm Cleo Young is present from Pocket Living?
Hi, Chair. Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. In that case, I know you know the routine, but if I just say that, if I can ask you, first of all, to introduce yourself, just confirm where you're from, and I believe that there are a number of other colleagues of yours present. You might want to just highlight where they're from. Once you're ready, I will then give you 3 minutes to make your presentation. So please introduce yourself.
Thanks. My name is Chloe Young and I'm the Head of Development at Pocket Living. I am joined by a number of members of the team today. We have our architect, planning consultants, and a couple of others. So if you have any questions for any of us at the end, we'd be happy to take those.
Very good. In that case, then, I'm going to start the clock now, and I will alert you 30 seconds before the ending. You may start your presentation now.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this evening. We're delighted to be here tonight to present the proposal for our site at 2 to 10 Ossory Road. Pocket is funded by the Mayor of London and Homes England to deliver discounted intermediate affordable homes for local first-time buyers. In late 2019, we completed our first development in Southwark, located at Barker Road. All 57 affordable homes there were sold to young first-time buyers who lived or worked in Southwark, which allowed those people to stay in their communities rather than being forced to move out of the borough to find home ownership opportunities. A third of the Barker residents are key workers, including police officers and teachers, and I actually have one of our residents here tonight from Barker Road who would really like the opportunity to speak to you about her experience. We're committed to delivering homes quickly. The Barker Road residents moved in only 2 years after planning permission was granted, and we were the first developer to deliver homes under the Old Kent Road Area Action Plan. The proposal before you this evening is 100% affordable and would offer another 105 intermediate affordable homes to local first-time buyers, 10% of which would be wheelchair homes. It would also increase the quantum and quality of employment floor space, delivering over 15,000 square feet of B1C space, 10% of which will be affordable, and it will increase the number of jobs on site from 20 to 77. The employment space is designed to be flexible and of high quality and includes a large service yard and goods lift. And we've engaged with the GLA's industrial team, Southwark officers and Vital OKR to ensure that this space is successful for future occupiers. We prioritise opportunities to build communities in our developments. Our residents value the opportunity to socialise with their neighbours. And with that in mind, we focused on providing high quality and varied communal amenity spaces, with the residents benefiting from 3 roof terraces, as well as a flexible internal amenity room, which is suitable for socialising or home working. The proposal is car free and provides 124 cycle spaces, and it will significantly increase biodiversity on site with the inclusion of seasonal planting, swift boxes and new trees. Pocket has 2,600 eligible Southwark registrants waiting for one of these homes that will be sold at a 20% discount to local market prices. And that's in addition to the 5,000 registrants waiting on the Southwark Share to Buy list. These homes are designed with future affordability in mind to ensure that service charge and energy costs are kept low for our residents.
30 seconds.
And pocket buyers own 100% of their home. There's no rent, and compared with equivalent shared ownership homes, would save residents around £5,000 a year. And we also act as administrator to ensure that the homes remain affordable for future eligible local first-time buyers. So I'm delighted to have the opportunity to be able to present to you this evening with the aim of getting more local people onto the housing ladder. Should you be minded to resolve to grant permission this evening, we will start on site early next year, irrespective of the Bakerloo line extension, and see these new homeowners moving in from spring 2023. Thank you for your time. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to hear from one of our residents, Anna would be really keen to talk to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Turn up my machine. Thank you very much. Members, can I ask you to indicate if you wish to speak? I have one member at the moment. Are there others who wish to ask the applicant? And I also now see Councillor Whitehead. Councillor O'Brien, you go first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation, Chloe. If there was an uplift in property values and there's a limit on how much someone can earn before they're eligible for one of these properties, who sets that bar? In other words, if the property value is so high they can't get a mortgage for it without busting the ceiling on their salary, what would happen then in 5 or 6 years' time down the road when they want to move on? How does that mechanism work?
Well, the homes they're affordable into perpetuity, so there is a valuation undertaken for any resales. If we were 5 years down the line, salaries would increase. and so we know that these homes will remain affordable for people. There will always be a discount from market prices, so these homes will always be more affordable to people on modest incomes than an open market sale product.
So the threshold for the amount you're allowed to earn would go up proportionate to the market going up, yeah?
Yeah, well, it would. So we would. There is obviously the Southwark one-bed income cap, which is reviewed annually, as well as the mayor's income cap. So they would be reviewed, and the eligibility would be in line with those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Whitehead, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions, if that's okay.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to start by just looking at the demographics of residents who, applicants to your scheme. I understand there is a cap of, is it £47,000 per annum on income to make an application?
So it differs from local authority to local authority. In Southwark, there would be an initial income cap at your one-bed income cap, and then it would cascade out if those homes weren't sold to the mayor's income cap.
Which is 90k, yes?
It is, yeah.
So in the other Southwark scheme, for instance, which is probably the best comparator here,
yeah.
How many of those residents made an application who fell outside of the 47k cap, or whatever the cap was in that development? So how many of the residents were outside of the scheme's cap and therefore on a higher income?
I don't have that exact figure for you. What I can what I can tell you is that 90% of those buyers earned below £50,000. So hopefully that gives you a rough idea based on the 47 to 50 then.
Okay. And could you, okay, so how many of those are couples then?
I think the vast majority of our buyers across all of our developments are single. We find that actually if couples want to buy a home, they have two incomes, so they're more able to access the open market. So they don't actually look at a product like Pockets, where overwhelmingly occupied, our buyers are overwhelmingly living alone.
Okay.
Whitehead? Yep.
Yeah, one other question, if I may, Chair.
Those were interesting questions, Councillor Whitehead. They were very interesting.
So why is it not feasible to build any social housing on the site?
Well, first and foremost, I guess we're funded by the mayor to deliver intermediate affordable homes, these discounted market for sale homes. We're not funded by the mayor to deliver social rented homes. And we know the reason for that is because we know there is a high demand across London, and particularly in Southwark, for these middle income earners who don't earn enough to get on the housing market, young first time buyers who are trying to get on the housing market. And that's what the mayor funds us for.
Does the mayor prevent you from offering social housing?
The funding is just for discounted market sale, yeah.
But he doesn't prevent you from offering social housing?
Well, we wouldn't have the funding for social rent, so we wouldn't be able to deliver it. We simply wouldn't have the funding for it. So this is set up, the fund was set up for a very specific need within London for these young first-time buyers.
I think you have a response to your question, Councillor Whitehead. If you have another question, I'll take it. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much indeed for that question. Councillor Morell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can see what you're trying to do in that, but I'm slightly worried about the quality of the homes, mainly with the private amenity space, e.g. not having balconies, etc., somewhere to go out and have a cup of coffee first thing in the morning without having to go and see the rest of the flats. And as we know from COVID and the situation we're in at the moment, actually having a good quality space of your own with a little bit of outside space can help your mental health immensely. So with that in mind, and I know you designed these before that happened, but with that in mind, the quality, of the homes and the outside amenity space and having a bit of private space to go to. I just want to say I'm slightly worried about that. And have you got any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, Anne, the resident from Barker Road that really hopes to speak to you tonight, will be able to give you her personal experience of living in one of these homes during COVID. I mean, overwhelmingly, generally, our residents want communal space to socialise on, to get to know their neighbours and socialise with them, rather than spending time on private balconies in their own homes. We know that from our, we do post-occupancy surveys, and we take that feedback on. In terms of COVID, actually, the communal spaces allow residents to socialise at a safe distance with their neighbours. We have a Pocket app. They've been speaking on the Pocket app, and they've supported one another through COVID because they've had this communal amenity space, and because we've been able, or they've been able to build these communities with their neighbours, so they've actually been able to support one another, rather than often in sort of conventional schemes where you spend a lot of time on your own, in your own home and on your own balcony. And of course, you know, the vast majority of our buyers have been renting for about 8 years before they are able to buy one of these Pocket homes. You know, spending a lot of time in shared houses with the only space that they've got is a bedroom to live or to relax or work in these environments. So actually being able to have their own home is a huge benefit to them, particularly during lockdown. And then with the added bonus of this communal space where they're actually still able to socialise and get that social support from their neighbours, has been really helpful, is the feedback that we've had.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Morell. Are there other questions? Councillor Whitehead, I'll take you again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this one I forgot to ask before. So am I correct in understanding from the presentation that the affordable housing is provided in perpetuity? Is that what you said? So it will always remain on resale at 20% discount?
They will remain affordable into perpetuity, and that's through the eligibility criteria that Pocket as administrator ensures is adhered to in any resale. So any resale will have to go to another eligible buyer, so live or work in the borough, earning below the mayor's income cap, and not own another property. If we were to offer 20% discount into perpetuity, we wouldn't be able to offer things like Help to Buy and other initiatives that enable these young people to get on the housing ladder. But what does happen is, because the pool of potential buyers for these new for the resale homes is that much smaller, because you have to be eligible, the resale value takes that into account. So it's always a reduction from market value, because these aren't open market homes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't understand the response. Could you could you repeat your response to that question? So I've understood the first part, that the initial purchase, the 20% of market value, and they've got to fall within the criteria set out, income bracket, etc. But the resale value, well, just go over that aspect of your response, please. So
if one of these homes was to be sold on, indeed, after any period of time, Pocket acts as administrator for that resale to ensure that the home goes to another eligible buyer, so that it remains as an affordable housing product and goes to another eligible buyer. So when the resale process takes place, that's undertaken by an RICS surveyor, and they look at all the eligibility criteria and all the restrictions that are within the lease and the Section 106, the marketing methods plan that we sign with you, and value it on the basis that they can't sell on the open market to anybody. You have to be eligible. So the pool of eligible buyers is that much smaller, so that the home is reduced in value from an open market home, effectively.
By your surveyor,
No. So it's an independent RICS surveyor. They undertake the valuation. We just act as administrator to make sure that the restrictions in the lease and the 106 are adhered to, and it does go to an eligible buyer.
This surveyor is appointed by yourself?
It would be appointed by the resident who was selling the home.
that resident appoints them, and that's
yeah,
part
yeah.
of the agreement.
It's entirely independent. Yeah.
Right. So in other words, that's written into agreement that the seller can appoint their own surveyor to determine the current value upon which the market discount then will be determined. Right.
Yeah. So we don't have the interest in the home. So in the same way that you would sell your own home, you know, you appoint your valuer.
That's fine. That's fine. You to understand your level of involvement, because you essentially will hold the freehold and therefore have overall governance. It gets experienced elsewhere. You see that I'm now calling upon. That's an interesting one. That's quite interesting. I see Councillor Morell. Forgive me, Councillor Whitehead's digital hand still up. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah.
I intervened. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. It was a good follow-up question, Chair. So could you just clarify as well? These houses that go on the resale market will always be affordable, you said, but what types of affordable homes will be offered then? Are we talking shared ownership?
No. So they always remain as a discounted market sale product. So exactly the same as we're talking about here today, discounted from open market value. The tenure doesn't change. The type of affordable home doesn't change. They're just sold on to another eligible person who is, you know,
right.
Like I say, live or work in the borough.
The only affordable element of that is actually that someone meets certain criteria and is therefore registered in the affordable housing scheme. So in other words, I understand what you're saying about the discount happening as an inevitability of the fact that it can't be sold on the open market. It can only be sold to a select number of individuals, but that's the affordable component of it, that it only can be sold to a select number of individuals. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah, in the same way that the first round sales are sold to the eligible people. Yeah.
Okay, but to take that one step further, then, if no one's interested in it in that select number, does it then become available outside of that select number of people?
It would, for example, it would cascade in the same way that first round sales do. So if the home wasn't taken up by somebody who lived in Southwark, it would go London wide
and higher salaries as well. So
and to 90,000, yeah.
Okay. And if I may, at that point, and just to clarify, did you say that currently on your waiting list you have 2,600 or so individuals? Is that right?
Eligible individuals, yeah.
Eligible individuals, right? Okay. And did you say Southwark? You referencing Southwark's listings as well?
The share to buy list for Southwark has about 5,000 registrants on that at the moment. So you can see quite a huge demand for sort of intermediate homes, and particularly the discounted market sale homes that Pocket offers.
Understood. And so the Southwark population is around, I think, 230,000 people. Right, that's okay. I just want to get it in my mind's eye. Thank you. Councillor Whitehead, if I may, I'm going to move on to Councillor O'Brien. If you wish to come back, you can. Okay, Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions. Firstly, something we haven't touched on is service charges. Just wondering, I have seen situations where service charges have sort of spun out of control. Is there some, parentheses around that? And secondly, you mentioned about when an owner might be moving on, 6-7 years, whatever, the life's moved on. What's the income stream for Pocket Homes that makes it viable for you as an organisation to continue to act as the agent for ongoing sales?
I'll take your sorry, Councillor O'Brien, your first comment, can you repeat it, please?
Yeah, the first one is, how are service charges set?
Oh, service charges.
Yeah.
So we make every effort from the initial design of the building to keep service charges low. And same with energy costs for the residents. So these homes aren't only affordable for when they buy them, they're actually affordable to live in. So you'll find across our developments, they're built with robust materials, robust furniture on the terraces, low maintenance options, if you like, to ensure that maintenance is kept low, therefore the service charge is kept low. They're usually around £100 a month, but you know, it differs slightly from scheme to scheme.
Okay.
We get a small fee from the seller when we sell a home, so that allows us to continue that management function, and as I said, just to make sure that the homes always remain in occupation by the right people.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you. And thank you. That's quite interesting. And I'm now quite keen to hear from the resident. I believe it's Anne Merkovic. Is that right? Is she here?
Hi. Yes, I am.
Hello there. Hello, Anne. So tell us, what is it like living in one of these? The term pocket home suggests very small and cramped and uncomfortable. Are they?
No, that's the thing. When I was looking at Pocket, I kind of had that same picture in my head, and then I got shown the flat, and I was like, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And it's just one of those weird things where, like, I've been renting for so long, and I honestly never thought I'd have a chance to live here, like to stay in Southwark. And the fact that it's only down the road from where I was living before was amazing. So they've really thought of everything, and the communal spaces have been really helpful for us. I know one of the councillors mentioned about during COVID, it was quite tricky for a lot of people for personal space. And if anything, it made me talk to my neighbours more. We could go out to the balconies, and we had a pizza party for someone's like lockdown birthday. So it's nothing like that. You do have a lot of space, and it's your own space as well, because I've had to share with a lot of people, pay really, really high rent for some places that, being very honest, looked a bit like prison cells. So it has been, it is quite spacious from what I'd originally thought.
Okay. And the question I was asked by Councillor O'Brien on service charges. Tell us about service charges. How is it affordable?
Yeah, definitely. Our service charge, I pay quarterly, and it's not that bad at all. You have the kind of options to pay annually, quarterly, and they're quite flexible around that. It's something that I don't really think about, to be honest. It's one of those things that I was paying a lot more kind of renting to live in a 2-bed flat than what I am now, which is crazy. And it's something that I can call my own. So.
Understand you. What I'm trying to allude to is the service charge what, a quarter of your usual payments? Is it half of your usual? I'm sort of thinking in terms of mortgage, of course. I'm just trying to get some idea of what it represents.
I can't even remember how much it is now. I'm so bad.
That's good.
Okay. It's one of those things.
I have a daughter like you see, that's why.
It's one of those things. It's not that much at all. I think it's, how much do I pay? Service charge. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can drop you a quick email afterwards. Sorry.
No need, don't worry. We would have moved on by that time. My last question is, you said that and we are concerned about the space standards, okay? And for us, this is a significant departure from our space standards, which is really a red flag typically. Have you coped in these spaces? Why is it acceptable to you?
Well, I think because I had to, like a lot of people, I had to work for a home during lockdown, and the Pocket could have easily put in 2 flats, and instead they put in a communal space. So we have a workroom on one of our floors that we can go to. So if I'm kind of getting sick of my living room, then I'll go to the workroom, and then we've also got a sunroom as well. So it's those things where it just kind of mixes it up a bit, especially when the early days and you feel a bit kind of trapped, but you really don't here because you've just had you've had those options to go elsewhere. When I would, in my other flat, if I was still renting, I'd have been stuck in my bed. So it's that really made a difference.
Thank you, and thank you for responding to my question. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Are there other questions from the committee? any other questions from the committee? In that case, thank you both, Cleo, and for your presentation. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
I'll now move forward to supporters. Is there a supporter present? Okay, double check with Gerald, who lives within 100 meters of the application site.
There's no supporter that's registered, Chair.
Very good. In that case, then, if I may now move on to ward councillors. Last but not least, of course, are the ward councillors present? I've got note here, Councillor Akoto and Councillor Situ. Are they present? And indeed, Councillor Livingstone, I imagine.
Yes, Chair, and we're going to split this so that I speak for 2 minutes and Councillor Akoto and Michael Situ are going to speak for 30 seconds on other aspects of it, if that's okay.
All right, Evan. Can I first of all then, just for formality, to satisfy the clerk, the constitutional side, ask each councillor to introduce themselves, please, and just confirm the ward you represent.
Yeah, Councillor Richard Livingstone, Old Kent Road Ward.
Councillor Evelyn Okoto, Old Kent Road Ward.
Councillor Michael Shitu, Old Kent Road Ward.
Thank you. And can I just double check what sequence you go in? Councillor Livingstone, who after the
me
Councillor
first.
Me second.
Okay, and
I take the rear.
Very good, very good. In that case, Councillor Livingstone, you know the way to do this. I'll indicate at 30 seconds, finalising, but you may start your presentation now.
Thank you, Chair. As committee knows, I could hardly be described as an opponent of new development in the Old Kent Road. My view is where development brings more benefit than disbenefit, it's something we should support. Sadly, this development fails this test, as it fails to meet the policy promise to the local community on social housing provision. The promises of the Area Action Plan have been vital in winning the trust of the local communities in the regeneration process on the Old Kent Road. We've learnt from past regeneration schemes to try and improve on them. And the single most important promise has been the commitment to at least 25% of each development being social housing. That's a commitment which means that social tenants, the vast majority of residents in our ward, have a stake in new developments, a chance of better housing for them, their families, or their neighbours. And it's meant that local TRAs have been willing to speak up in favour of developments in the past. If committee agrees this today, I fear that might be seen as a breach of that trust. Councillors from all political sides in the council have spoken that in the past, saying that 80% of market value is a poor measure of affordability, and yet that's all we're being offered here. It might be a good offer for a single adult to have only to find a £300,000 mortgage, but that's unaffordable to the vast majority of people in our borough, where less than a third of people own homes and over 2/3 rent from a social or private landlord. I'm not decrying the pocket model. We've got pocket homes already in the ward and we've met with the residents online. But I'm not clear why they can only build in Old Kent Road Ward. And that's important because we're running out of space in the Old Kent Road. There's only capacity for 9,500 homes before the Bakerloo line is agreed. We're already at 8,200 homes that have been
1 minute remaining.
So we're running out of capacity to deliver social homes, and I think we need to think of that very carefully.
I would like to raise concerns on the size of the property. We know that Pocket specialises in smaller housing, but these are barely above the nationally described space standard of the recommended 37 square feet. I believe some of the units are 37.6 square feet. And living in such compact spaces can have a detrimental impact on one's mental health and well-being.
Our residents are telling us that they do want more open and community space. We're very concerned about this particular development because we think that it further squeezes that, and we believe that it should also be refused for this reason.
Thank you. That was with 20 seconds remaining. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you for being good on this occasion. Questions to councillors. Questions to councillors. Questions to councillors. Is there no question to the councillors? They've all three turned up here today. Oh, in that case, I'll ask. Oh, Councillor Whitehead, please go ahead.
I was simply going to ask if any of the councillors would like to expand upon their concerns.
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear that.
And would you like to expand upon any of your specific concerns? You discussed space standards, amenity space, and of course, trust. Do you wish to expand upon any of those issues?
Yes, I think I'll expand on my issues. I think mine is quite clear about the size of the dwellings. And to be honest, there's a joke about Pocket. I don't want to be derogatory, no. But you know, it's known that it's very small. I understand that a lot of young people. I mean, obviously, we had that witness. One of the residents I spoke about her experience in Pocket, but I do believe that the spaces are too small. As I've said, it's just above the minimum recommended standard of 37 square feet. And I do believe that, you know, they are trying to squeeze more individuals or more people into a tight space than needed. I think what my concern is, if we keep allowing such developments in our borough, what we're doing is accepting such standards, and I don't think we should be accepting such standards.
Chair, can I just add to mine as well? I mean, it's very clear that as we're kind of having more developments within the Old Kent Road itself, that we ensure that we have adequate community and private space in itself. And what residents have been telling us as local councillors over the years is that they want more rather than less. And if we're allowing development where community space are going down rather than up, I think we're certainly in a position, we may find ourselves in a position in the future where there aren't adequate community space. I appreciate the experience of that was shared with us today of one of the residents in the development itself. But what we hear from residents is that actually there isn't enough. And we think there needs to be very serious consideration given to that. There certainly will be, in my view, an increase in residents working from home over the next few years, perhaps into the decade going forward. And I think we need to have this in very serious consideration in mind in determining whether we really, really want to set this precedent in allowing this development to have planning permission.
And just finally, I mean, I mentioned before, we're not saying no pocket living anywhere, but they already have a sizable development at Varco Road. This is the second of 3 applications coming forward for pocket living in Old Kent Road ward. They're not looking anywhere else in the borough. And you know, the homes we've probably already got in our ward would easily meet the numbers of people who live in our locality for whom those homes are affordable. I accept that, you know, the offer is for people that are far beyond our area, but this is doing very little to meet local needs. It fails council policy on social housing levels. That's the fundamental point. And for us as local ward councillors, that has been the fundamental point that the community have come back to us on development. They're saying, well, we can, many of them have said that they can agree with some development in the area if it brings new social housing, if it helps them out. But this doesn't do that. And, you know, I think the vast majority of our local community wouldn't accept development that doesn't provide that social housing. And as I said, the clock is ticking. We've almost run out of those 9,500 homes that can get built before the Bakerloo line is approved. So we're already at 8,200, and this is another 105 off that dwindling list of 1,300 left.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Soames, you wish to ask a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would just like to ask the councillors, well, thank you for your comments, and obviously you've raised a number of concerns, 1 or 2 that overlap with mine quietly at this stage. But how much engagement and how much dialogue has there been with the applicants in terms of the concerns that you've expressed this evening, particularly around the lack of social housing and indeed the shortfall of private amenity space, notwithstanding what the current leaseholder has stated in terms of communal space. But, you know, as we know, we're not all social animals, and that we're not all sort of readily prepared to sort of take up communal space. Private amenity spaces, I would say, probably more important. But how much were you able to share that with applicants? And also around the fact that you've said that there are already established schemes in your particular ward. Did you raise the question with them around the number of schemes coming forward in the Old Kent Road? Okay.
I'll start on that, just on the consultation point. I mean, to be fair to developer, they did come to us early. They did say we'd like to talk to us about the development. I was aware of what Pocket's model was from the development of Varco Road, and I've been to visit some of their homes previously. So, I mean, given where we are on the Old Kent Road redevelopment, my very first question back was, well, what social housing are you delivering? And I made it very clear that I just couldn't support anything that wasn't delivering 25% social housing. So that sort of very quickly came to sort of an end of the conversation, because there wasn't really anywhere, I think, for the conversation to go, because that's not what their model is. But yeah, they did try to, they did reach out to talk to us.
And I think on the back of that, I think for me personally, the space and the sizes of the properties has always been my concern. And we know that there's a development in Varco Road, which we are aware of. And I think as local councillors, we know there has to be a variety of schemes in our ward. But as Richard has said, we've already got Varco Road. This is coming through, and is potentially another Creedon Road is coming through. And again, what I don't want us to do is set a precedence for this type of housing in an area where we know that more family housing is needed.
Nothing much to add. Just to say that actually there is just so much wrong about this application. It's not just one aspect, it's multiple aspects that actually I certainly don't expect the developer, based on their model, to kind of adhere to some of the key demands that we had in mind. But yes, I accept that they did made attempts at speaking to us. I will sort of reiterate again, quite a lot of the residents who speak to me want to move into 3-bed, 4-bed house. Some, at a lesser extent, want to move into 2-bed house. We don't have those options here, and the more kind of homes that are provided in this kind of module will reduce the opportunity for us to meet our social housing target. There are lots of residents within our ward who deserve the kind of housing which they need.
In that case, I'll ask a few questions just to keep moving along. So if I may ask you, all three of you, that the stats quoted as to the demand for this type of tenure, these types of homes, was quite interesting. So currently they have 2,500 on their waiting list, and these are local people. I suppose I should have asked a question if it's quite specific to your ward, but I imagine that they're Southwark-based individuals, and a further 3,500 on the Southwark's intermediary waiting list as well, which suggests that there is a significant demand for this type of tenure and opportunity. And of course, the reason why your ward apparently is the centre of it, because you're the centre of the area action plan. So, it's almost inevitable, if I may say so. So, so you're smiling at that. So my real question is that I've been privileged to chair this committee for the past few years, and we have successfully secured above policy across the piece. But there are always going to be a number of applications that are either 100% social, maybe developed by the council, or indeed you have a 100%, in this case, intermediary. That is, what would you expect to see in an area action plan? And it is consistent with the area action plan and the evidence base on which it was formed. If I may start with Councillor Akoto, first of all, who usually has an interesting perspective on these matters.
Can you just repeat the question again?
So my question is that this particular application satisfies what is pent-up demand. And the only reason why your ward apparently is the focus is because your ward is the centre of the Old Kent Road Area Action Plan. So where else is it likely to occur in the borough? So, but you wouldn't object. Well, we have approved above average affordable home quantum across the piece. And of course, there have been schemes, council schemes in particular, which have been 100% social. So you would agree then it's inevitable that you'll see a number of schemes which will be at this intermediary level, which satisfy a quite specific group of residents. That is reasonable, isn't it? That is reasonable. Would you not agree?
Yes, I do agree it's reasonable, but as we
I just want to be sure about that.
As we've said, there's already pocket living in our one pocket living in our ward, and there's 2 now in the pipeline. Apart from this, there's another one in the pipeline. What we can only do is speak up for our residents, and what we can only do is speak up for the kind of casework we get, and the casework we get are for bigger homes, family homes, which this is not provided. So I think you could forgive us for making sure that we're staying on on the kind of what's the word I'm looking for? We're sticking by our guns by representing our community and making sure that they get what they really need.
I'll just answer next. Chair, I'll probably say that I'll go slightly further than my colleague here. I'm not so sure I accept that it's reasonable. And the reason being really is that the area action plan, the borough-wide plan itself, it's meant to secure at least 35%. We've been able to get to where we are till date because we've stuck to that rigidly, and we're saying to developers, you've got to be, the starting point is 35%. The difficulty with this application is that potentially we're sending the wrong message, the wrong signal to developers out there that actually, if they come up with a couple of reasons that they can fashion together, that perhaps we may be able to balk on that 35%. I think this is a cornerstone of the area action plan. The reason we as councillors, the reason residents are kind of coming along with kind of the development on the Old Kent Road is the fact that we would have more social housing, is the fact that those who have been waiting for years, decades, I visit residents home, some are living in very, very difficult conditions, is the prospect that they can get somewhere which is of social rent, affordable amount fairly soon, not in a decade's time. And I really do believe that this particular application, if it does go through, is not reasonable at all. I do really think we do need to seriously consider that point, and we should refuse it for that reason.
And just to expand on that point, Chair, you said that this was the only place where regeneration was happening in the borough. I don't believe that's the case. There's quite a lot in your ward. There's quite a lot in Canada Water. There's quite a lot in lots of parts of this borough. So I'm unclear why it's only the Old Kent Road it's being looked at. And Michael's point is fundamental. One of the things that we have tried to ensure there is in the Old Kent Road to get that trust in the local community is to be able to say, look, this is a regeneration that right from the get-go has that firm commitment to 25% social housing, at least for every development. And since that commitment was firmed up, this has been the first one. I mean, the previous pocket was before that was quite as clear. But this is the first one that's come along since that time, where the developer is saying, well, we're not going to provide any. There's been developers we turned up before that have been saying, well, we can only do 15% social housing, and we've been able to say as a council, well, the door's over there then, and then they've come back and been able to improve the offer. So this does feel to me as if it's a bit of a watershed moment if we were to break what is council policy and have less than 25% housing on this site.
And I might just, I can see 2 other hands, but I'm just going to follow through one more time on the question of reasonableness.
Chair, sorry, could I just interrupt you briefly for an important point?
Yes.
So due to technical reasons beyond my control, my PC is going to reboot in 4 minutes and 8 seconds, and it's a mandatory update.
Oh, is it mandatory?
So I have no option. I've been holding on for a few hours, but yeah, I think so. It may be best that we adjourn soon because I will be going offline in 3.5 minutes, whatever we do.
Oh, 3.5 minutes. Well, in that case, I won't talk about reasonableness right now. In that case, it is 5 to 9. We will adjourn for 5 minutes. Hopefully, Councillor Whitehead.
It's 5 to 10, Chair.
Oh, to 10. Oh, forgive me. Indeed, yes. Thank you, Bill. I think we'll adjourn for 5 minutes just to allow that to happen, because we don't want you to not be a participant in this meeting. So we will adjourn and we will reconvene at 10 o'clock. Hopefully, Councillor Whitehead will be ready.